Okay, we're ready to look at number 5, which is a little bit different than the others, and we'll see how you did on it. A has x to the third in parentheses, and then squared. So there's two powers to expand. The square says that we have x to the third times another x to the third. If I expand all of those, we end up with x being multiplied by itself 6 times. Now let's verify that. Let x equal 5. The original expression had 5 to the third in parentheses and then squared. Our final answer has 5 to the 6th power. So our answers do match. You're going to find that when you're working with large exponents, and 6 is rather large when you're talking about exponents, that your answers on the calculator are going to get quite large. That answer works. Let's take a look at 5b. That is a to the 5th and then to the 3rd power. So that's a to the 5th times itself 3 times. Now I know some students will be able to think in their head, that's 5 A's and 5 more A's and 5 more A's, and they should be able to get right to the answer that in all that's 15 A's multiplied by themselves. If you can do that, that's great. If not, continue to expand. A to the 5th power times another a to the 5th power and if you count up how many times a is being multiplied by itself, it's a to the 15th power. So again, let's verify and let a equal 5. So is 5 to the 5th power in parentheses and raised to the 3rd power the same thing as just 5 to the 15th power. Now, look at that answer very carefully. Your answer is not 3. If I'm multiplying that many 5's together, my answer should be a very huge number. So my answer really is very close to 3.05 times 10 raised to the 10th power. Notice this E10 over here says that this number is in scientific notation, and the number behind the E tells me what the power is over here. Make sure when you write this number on your paper you use correct scientific notation and that you don't use the calculator's notation instead. So now let's try 5 to the 15th power. Notice that answer matches exactly, even that part that I rounded off. On paper, though, so I don't want to write all those decimals, I'm going to write just a few of them, and so I'll make those match. What I was looking for and what I was hoping for is that these two answers would match and that I would know that answer is correct. Now, if on your paper you leave this part off and you say that 5 to the 5th power and then raised to the 3rd power is just 3.05, I will take a point off on the exam. One of the things we studied is scientific notation, and you should be looking for that scientific notation when you're working on your calculator, especially when you know that multiplying 5 by itself 15 times should be a very huge number. And in fact, this number written in ordinary notation would have the decimal moved 10 places back. So this is a huge number in reality. All right, let's go on to 5C. (5c) is p squared, and then that raised to the 4th power. So I have p squared times itself 4 times. And if you can imagine in your head what this would be in expanded form without writing it, go ahead and jump to the answer. I'm going to go ahead and write it out just in case I get nervous on the final and I want to be absolutely certain. So each p squared is p times p. It doesn't really take me that long to write these out to be certain of my final answer. And if I count all of those up, that's p to the 8th power. Again, I'm going to let p equal 5. And we'll check this work. So it's 5 squared in parentheses to the 4th power equal to the same thing as 5 to the 8th power. And I can see that those two answers do match. And they're not so large that the calculator has sent me into scientific notation yet. All right, you're going to be working some more with exponents when you go back to the lesson, and with powers outside of parentheses. So continue to write things in expanded form, and I shouldn't have to tell you any rules for how to get the answers for number 6 or number 7 in the activities.